Are you wanting to just feel better in your life? Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed or anxious all of the time? Trust us, we've been there and we totally get it. That's exactly why we've created something truly special for you. Introducing you to this life-changing free gift. It's called Transform Your Life in 3 minutes a day or less with these 8 simple questions. These questions have helped us in countless ways. They've helped us get underneath our fears and overwhelm and any energies that are blocking us from more resilience and joy. They've helped us connect with our inner wisdom and to really listen to our soul speak, like what our soul is trying to communicate. So if you want to dive in with us, this 8-day adventure is really such a beautiful exploration you can take with us. So if you want to join us, this is how it works. Each day you'll get an email with a daily question, and then that's accompanied by a mini guided meditation that's under 3 minutes. So if you are wanting to sign up, go to lachiaramethod.com/podcast-gift. That's LACHODE.com/PODCAST-GIFT. Welcome to the Activate Change podcast, where transformation is just a conversation away. Each episode, join renowned healer and founder of the La Chiara Method, Gabrielli La Chiara, as she offers an intimate front row seat to an authentic and unscripted personal healing session. Each session features a new person exploring their genuine struggles, their longings, and their deepest desires in their lives. As you listen, we invite you to receive as well, feeling into where the healing and insights that transpire might spark transformation in your own life. And stay tuned until the end, because I, Chloe Faith Urban, will discuss the session and share a tool or framework that Gabrielli used, which you can apply to your own personal healing. This podcast does contain adult language and content, so if you have little ones around you, you may want to use headphones. In this episode, Gabrielli has a first-time session with Lisa, who struggles with wondering if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing with their life. Lisa wonders if they're living up to their fullest potential and if they're being a big enough contribution to the world. Let's dive in.
Hi there.
Hey.
Hi, welcome to the Activate Change podcast. I'm happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, good. Let's land ourselves together. And what I mean by that is that I will maybe lead us through just a couple of breath cycles, and you don't have to participate. You can have your eyes opened or closed. You can stand up and jump around if you need to. Mostly the time is just for you to find your own intention and why you're here. And so I'm going to just do a counting style breath. And again, you don't have to follow my pace. Counting is good for our brains. So we'll exhale fully. And whenever that next inhale starts, if you'd like to join me, we'll inhale on 4. So inhaling 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll exhale around the same amount. 1, there you go, 2, 3, and 4. And then wherever you're at, you can inhale again. And a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And exhaling around the same amount of numbers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you can breathe as you wish. And I'm going to invoke that, yes, this is a podcast and you're have so much gratitude for your yes and joining us and stimulating healing for listeners, for yourself. And primarily, this is your session. So I'm here for you. My intention to show up fully for your process and your journey, and not to put on a show, just to be present with you and let you feel, be who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to do that little, I like to do this. I kind of have this concept in my head that I can pull down the window shades on the shit we don't need in the session. So, all the other stuff, even however we landed, to just imagine we can just pull those shades down and say, no, thank you. Anything that doesn't belong in this space together isn't required or needed for you today. It can pause and activate change and generate healing immediately. Thank you. I'm curious about your intention or anything you might want to be exploring together.
I am really wanting to push beyond my ways of being from the past that have protected me but are no longer serving me. And I have a lot of desire and intention for that, but I still often feel like I'm just in the body that doesn't know how to do that.
Right.
I feel really trapped a lot of days.
That makes sense. So I feel like I heard you say that you're hoping to and wanting to, and maybe even have been trying to push past some of your autopilot habits that your body has, and that maybe the exploration is either how to understand to do that, or what might be helpful in shifting that, or if there's any consciousness we can bring to, what's causing you to have a body that's not making the changes you want it to make, right? Is that what I heard? Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Did you want to say more?
Yeah, I was just thinking, what's stopping me from trusting in that future happening?
Right. Okay. So let's take a breath on that. And just anytime I say, let's take a breath on that, I'm not demanding for you to do something. So some people do or don't have relationship with how it feels to breathe, but mostly just as a pause and an anchor point for us to rest in. And I'm feeling like I want to just jump into what we call the discovery process, which is a way of asking questions and being present, and for me to kick my intuition in to help guide us and see if we can just explore together what's in here. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll take that theoretic breath. And I'm going to land myself, because what I want to do is feel where a good starting point might be in this. Yeah. I think you're probably not alone either. So many of us feel like, why am I doing this thing again? It's like I committed not to doing it. And I know I have the story so many times of being like, tomorrow's a day I won't eat sugar, and then off I go tomorrow. and it's that grappling with what is that part of ourselves that is working against what we think or feel or know is better for us, And so I think I love diving in here, because I think it's a good point to look at, to be like, what is that that's in the way of you? And the word I'm feeling and hearing is thriving. So the first question I want to ask, and I'm going to invite you to quote unquote answer, but from an intuitive sense. So whatever pops in your head, or whatever feelings you might have, just share anything that comes up. And even before we take another step, I just want you to know there's this big delete button between us. So for now and for forever, if there's ever anything that comes up in this session that I say, or that we share together, or even you say that later doesn't feel right anymore, just hit delete. Good luck, don't ever make me an authority over your knowing. I like to be bold. I just say what comes up. I use my intuition to get us in there. And, I don't want to leave you with residue or thoughts about yourself or stories that even if they feel true now, don't later. You can just say, okay, goodbye. So I want you to know you have that.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it helps me to have permission to go bold, right? And also, I really mean it. Sometimes things come up in session that are so true in the moment, and they lead us to a different truth later, and people get stuck holding the first part of it. And it's like, no, that was just a bump to get us somewhere else, and it's all good too. So yeah, can see that resonating on you. Yeah.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's just start by clearing out any indoctrinations you've had to live with about who you are, and any ways in which you've been told you are something or aren't something or need to be something or don't need to be something, or you should or shouldn't be these things, and all the ways in which you've believed that shit. And can we start by just clearing through the indoctrinated universes that affect who you feel, who you are, and how you feel in you?
Yeah. I love that. And I also feel like if I could do that, I would have no problems.
Oh, there we go. Did we get it? Yeah, like so true, right? Yeah. And so really, how much is that the storyline that you're being loyal? And the question that percolates in me is just like, who or what are you being loyal to? That would prevent you from truly feeling and knowing who you are, right? And what you need. So who are you? Who or what are you being loyal to? I'm going to hold that. Who or what are you being loyal to?
My goodness.
Yeah. Let me sweep it clear. So these statements are called activations, and they just move energy so that we can really keep refining the listening that we're doing together. So I'm just going to do one that says, I command the vibrational source of consciousness. And by that, I mean you, your own wise wisdom self, to clear, to activate change and generate healing immediately. And let's invoke and chant that you get to feel, know, be, and see right now, and activate change and generate healing immediately. And so who or what are you being loyal to? What can you know now about the energy of not being able to choose yourself or choose change even when you want to? So who or what are you being loyal to? What comes up when I ask that?
What's coming up is loyalty to an idea that I'm an individual responsible for fully manifesting myself and what I'm supposed to do in this time.
Yeah. Let's feel that together. You're an individual fully responsible for what you're, did you say, supposed to do and manifest in this time?
Yeah, like manifesting that which I'm supposed to be doing in this time.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What's the supposed to be? What's the responsibility? Does that feel like a good responsibility? Like you feel good about that awareness that like you are in this responsibility for manifesting, right? This loyalty to responsibility. Does that feel oppressive?
What feels disappointing is being solely responsible.
Yeah.
Like I do feel like I could be contributing a lot to the world. And there are days that I try to tell myself I already have, and I could die tomorrow and it would be okay. I would have done something in this world, but there are other times where I feel like, my corporal form and my limitations as an individual person, ways that I stop myself from being quote unquote productive are stopping me from living my full potential and thus kind of contributing to the world what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel the burden of like that. I just don't feel that I alone can really pull that out of myself, and that feels like I'm letting myself down, I'm letting the world down.
Right.
And also maybe I don't matter that much, and it's okay.
Right. Right. Thank you for all of that. I felt so many feelings when you were talking, both some grief and some confusion and like a deep drive to want to use your power well and acknowledgement of yourself. And at the same time, this like not enoughness in it and the supposed to in it, and the idea that there's something else to be that would be better. I keep hearing better, you know, not enough for better, or better than who you are. Like, and I hear you grappling right in real time with it, which is like, but at the same time, I might be nobody. And at the same time, I could have died and be like, that was plenty, right? So I can hear the grappling that's going on under the surface. Yeah.
Is there unpotentiated? And I don't know who I'm letting down with that, you know? Right. Is it myself or is it the world? Is it even true?
Yeah. So when did you decide that you're letting something or someone or others or the world down? When did you decide that that's just true?
Oh, I was probably 6 years old.
Right. Well, what did you, I almost wanted to say, what did you do? But that's not really what I mean. Like on a grander scale, I'm like, what did you perceive at 6 that brought that to focus for you? Because right now that's a clear, you said 6 so fast, you know, like what did you perceive at 6 that maybe brought some confusion in, and or maybe brought a reality in that suggested these storylines, right?
I think that was a time where schools started to feel more competitive. There started to be more of a kind of needing to hold myself up against others, and hold myself up against my older brother. And I felt like I was missing the mark. I don't know if it was that age or a little bit later, but I would recognize myself holding myself back in school in ways that one thing that like caused me a lot of pain was the in class in like grade school, where you would have to read a couple pages silently to yourself, and then the teacher would say, raise your hand when you're done. I wouldn't do that. I would look at the questions and I would find something that I would say to answer one of those questions from the text. And then I would sit and I would watch and I would try to like conspicuously put my hand up kind of in the middle of the other students because I couldn't read like fast enough to keep up to even do the assignment. I couldn't get to the end of the text. And like not even to be the last person, you know, it was like I would be, you know, 10, 15 minutes behind the last person. Like it was an untenable situation in my mind. Class could not go on, you know, if I actually read this text like the other kids were reading the text.
You're unbelievable. What an incredibly creative coping skill.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly creative coping skill to a situation that must have been horribly difficult. Horribly difficult.
Yeah.
Like this feeling of difference in yourself and difference that relates to incompetence in our society. Like talk about the grids of just culture that already were placed upon you in that setting, to imagine that you're supposed to fit into something that you physically know you can't do, and that you have to hide it and cover it up and cloak it and manipulate into a pretense that you've done the thing that you were supposed to do. And all that masking, cloaking, covering up and compensating, that I'm imagining you're naming that story because it's still here on some level. Those coping skills. Yeah.
It is. I mean, I think it's emblematic of my entire life, how I've lived my life, you know, and I've been lucky enough to learn my own, you know, neurodivergence now at this point, and the brilliance in that, and the intelligence in what it was that I was actually able to do. But there's also a bit of myself, or maybe not even a bit, maybe a huge, large chunk, whole appendixes of my body that I just feel like you've always been cutting yourself short.
Right.
Like you've never shown up fully for anything.
Right.
Right. And that's why I feel unpotentiated. I've done that to myself, and also society has done that to me.
Yeah.
But how do I even begin to like go back that far in my like actual like competencies that I lack because of the ways that I have been masking this disability for so long.
Right. I'm so grateful you're not masking that to yourself anymore. I just my heart wants to, like, I just want to reach in honestly and like hold that young child that needed to hear like, hey, you're not going to do it the same as anybody around you, but it's okay because your way will be amazing and different and incredible and welcomed, and like all of the welcoming home to your soul, to your body, to your being, to your wholeness of you, to say, yeah, you know, you may not fit ever the way you think you want to or the way you're told you should. And hooray, you know, hooray. Like we don't need you to. And even if society tells you you should, or it looks like it would be easier, you're not going to. Right. And to let go of that expectation. I'm supposed to fit in some way that everywhere you turn is still going to be there. Even if you got good messaging, everywhere you turn, it's still here. Right. So maybe I want to, anyway, I want to breathe that through, and I want to start by clearing off the societal grids as another activation that just clears societal grids, to see if we can suspend those for a moment, to see, who are you now with me in this moment today? How can we meet you to inspire change, you know, if we can, in this arena? And how are we going to help you if you can't? You know, like, what if this particular piece never changes? Like, what does resilience look like in there? You know, what is changeable, what's not? There's so much subtlety. Yeah, there's a lot there to look at, but I'd like to start with that grid and see if we can clear through any societal grids, to see if we can quiet those a tiny bit more, as I really want to know who you are right now. And let's command that same vibrational source of consciousness, your own wisdom, to liberate you, and specifically say like liberate you from the grids, to just like move you off of them so that they aren't indoctrinating you as a permanent thing. But they still exist and will exist, but we don't have to exist as them. So let's liberate you from existing as the grids, constructs, structures, forms, belief systems, emotions, even spirit energies of not enoughness, of incompetence, of not belonging, of not fitting, of never expressing your full potentiality because you can't for some reason. And all those grids that have been placed upon you by society that have not only indoctrinated you, but influenced you and convinced you that you're really can't thrive. And activate change and generate healing immediately. And again, liberating you from existing as the grids, constructs, structures, forms, beliefs, and systems, and emotions of all of that. And every way in which those exist in all the cells and particles of your body, every way in which we inherit those same systems. So they're here genetically, culturally, physically. And in this moment, to suspend the grips of all of that and see who are you today, and activate change and generate healing immediately. If being you and thriving is not what you think it is, what else might it be? And activate change and generate healing immediately. I'm going to ask again, and feel free to respond if there's something to say or notice. If being you and thriving is not what you think it is, what else might it be?
I think that it could be presence. It could have less to do with outcome. Yeah. Which is something I've thought about before, but is hard to hold on to. It's hard to have that kind of grace with myself and feel like I'm moving forward in life.
Right. I don't know, I have this framework that really helped me early on, which was to, at some point I realized, and it took me a lot of years, to realize like, oh, the body is this one reality we live in and one experience of consciousness. And it's physical and it's sensational and it's, dense, really, emotion and pain and maybe joy and like, but it's kind of simple, it's a pile of sensations. And that the body, I used to try to feel sort of like inside my body would be my spirit. I had this sense that the energy of me was in me. And at some point it just completely changed in my perspective. And there's lots of reasons for that in terms of my own traumas and experiences. But it was like, well, what am I thinking? My body is a tiny little bit of a center of this infinite being. And I started to see people through the lens of beings, like we're bodies, but we're in the center of this infinite resource. And it occurred to me, and it like just came to me over and over and over, that inside that being, it's like I had this vision that we'd be souls like deciding to come to earth and like, okay, time for this physical body earth realm. And that the soul would like literally, express into a form of being, of a body through a being. And so the soul like takes a being and like forms a body in the center of it. And then this being is this orb, like infinite orb of consciousness that is serving the body and is the glue between the soul and the body, so that there'd be this forever communication we could learn about why we exist, and that the beings are ours each personally, but are the part of us that just, merges with everything and all the time spaces, and maybe merges with what somebody might find as God consciousness or earth consciousness or all those things. But mostly to say that it was helpful for me to be like, okay, wait, if I'm a tiny little body in the center of an infinite being, and if in fact that being knows what I need to know about being a body on earth, then there's a part of me that's never broken. Even if the body is broken, even if I've had experiences I can never fix, that won't ever fit perfectly and that don't work right. Or maybe they work beautifully, but not for everybody else, or whatever the thing is, right? And in my own neurodivergent nature, also learning all the quirkiness of like who I am, and then going through experiences, both regrets I can't fix and also real experiences I can't change. And like, how do I live with those? And it was like, oh, right. Because there's part of me that isn't human, that is here to serve the fact that my humanness is messy and uncomfortable and shitty sometimes. And, it was an orientation I could start to feel for. And I loved the question for years and years and years, at least 3 years, where every morning I'd wake up and ask like 30 times or something, if I am an infinite being and a body and my infinite being is serving me, then what would I know today? Like, what would I do? Like, how would I show up? Right? Like, and if I could remember every minute, if I could just keep asking myself, what does it take to remember that there is some part of me that isn't broken and fits just perfectly in here too? And like, what would I do? What would my body need from me? Like, how would I show up, with that level of awareness? And so I want to play there for a minute and just feel with you that, like, how do we help you? Like, is it possible that it would help you to have that lens more frequently of like, wait, what if I am not just a body and I have the beingness of who I am that is an essence and an aliveness that is already thriving? How would I use it to serve my body and help my body get out of its own way sometimes, I don't know how that framework resonates or what it feels like to hear that or what it might bring up.
Yeah, it feels healing. I like hearing you talk about it. It feels non-linear. It just feels like an option that exists even when I can't see it as an option. And
right.
So the challenge then becomes reminding myself that that's an option. And for me, I feel like also granting myself, and maybe sometimes I won't choose that option, but I can know it's there even if I'm consciously not choosing it.
Right. Which is fine. We're bodies. We don't always want to choose the same thing every day, every minute. And it all counts. They're all experiences you get to have of being you. They're just, I think of what I'm trying to do is fill in the reservoir tank of more, right? Like there's the polarized reality when we've been traumatized enough that it's like we think either I'm going to never potentiate, or I have to break everything open in between and get all the way to my full potentiation. And that means that I've completely healed everything and gotten to the other side of these issues, right? And those two extremes, they fail us, they're built of trauma and they oppress us because it's impossible. It's an impossible feat. Like you're never going to do it all the time, and even what we think is potentiation is usually distorted because we've been so suppressed, right? So like, what is all I call it the rainbow sherbet in the middle, of those realities, like how can we open up more possibilities and liberate that part of you that says, wait, I get to know so many more things, which you were already showing me at the beginning of the session that you have that part of yourself. You were already negotiating like where you wanted to name something that might have felt rigid but it might not be that, or it could be this too, or, like I could see you were already open. I'm curious if we play just with a question around that and see where it brings you. So if perhaps you do have an infinite being of your own and it is completely serving this body, and your body really is just a tiny bit of the universe of Earth, and your body is Earth and part of Earth, and all of your nature is included in that. If you really are an infinite being, what does your infinite being know that your body needs right now?
My body needs gratitude and self-compassion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are you willing to receive a little bit of that right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's invoke, just even if it's just a splash, a second, a sweet spot, or if it's eternal, a little bit of compassion, maybe self-love, maybe presence into you, gratitude for who you are, for the body and all the work it's done in this, its complicated nature and your own personal karma and why you exist, and activate change and generate healing immediately. And if you really are an infinite being and a body, what does your infinite being want your body to know from your soul? What does your infinite being have for information from your soul about being you? What does your soul speak have to say in this moment?
That I don't have to be everything all at once, all the time. That I am in a limited temporal body. I'm not being asked to be my full essence of being in this each moment of time.
Wow. Feel that wisdom of you. That maybe what you're healing really is more to do with the ability to rest into the body, the process of not having to be everything all the time. And that this goal to potentiate maybe gets in the way of even small successes or choices you can make. Yeah. I can see where if the reptilian brain, the primal brain, wasn't in either or thinking, that if I was thinking I was going to take a step towards having more of myself or living more of my full potential, that if I had already in there the drive to think I had to do it 100%, like I might flatten myself because it might be like, whoa, it's a lot. Maybe I'll wait till tomorrow. You know, it's like that all or nothing is too much, maybe, to think I'm heading towards full actualization of my whole potential self in the next 3 hours of existence, right? And I can see where that just feels so untenable. Like you can't do it. So then why try? And that might mimic old patterns of feeling like I can't do it. So why try? I'll just compensate or adjust to myself and mask myself and move on, right? So can we clear any way in which living your potential doesn't include, because I want it to include, maybe excluding the part of you that potential is also in your everyday you-ness. You know, the potential sits even in when you don't respond and when you don't get up, and that like can it include all of you instead of just at the either or. I'm either enough or not enough at all. I'm either, you know, I don't know if those are the right words, but let's just clear out all that and commanding the vibrational source of consciousness to activate change and generate healing immediately. Right. And if your infinite being was serving your body right now, what else would you know about being you?
That I am tapped into a life force, that I have a channel that I can access, and I get scared about what to do with that.
Right.
But just the fact that I have it, the fact that I exist with that open, has its own positive and negative repercussions.
Right. And that maybe your consciousness is different than your family's consciousness or than other people's sometimes. Maybe your whole vibrational kind of sense of self, the way you think or feel or hold life isn't going to be the same as a lot of people's. Then are you willing, therefore, to be different? And to know that being different doesn't mean fatality or full being ostracized, or it doesn't have to be fatal. Like being different could actually help you belong more, not less, to the world around you. And are you willing to receive being different as maybe safer at this point than not letting yourself be different?
There's a part of me that resists that I'm different, but that I'm just maybe I'm in a particular orb of my being that someone else is not in,
Right.
and theirs right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're meeting each other in different facets of
Right.
our being.
Right.
I think I don't want to deny all of our sameness and the banality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Of
Love it.
this humanness that we're in together.
Right. And therefore, we're all kind of the same, even when we get scared of being different, or that when we try to be, some people try to be different, or like what's similar is that we're all humans, having this dance here on earth. And what's similar is that we all do have some being's essence to us that just exists. And then we find our way. And I think, in our work, we talk a lot about like oppression and what it means to do, like, what happened in particular in the formation of the United States, and how that divide and conquer and the birth of racism created samenesses in a way that were a lot of, in particular, white people. I'm a white woman, so I know from my internal perspective, lost a lot of culture, but also did this kind of thing of, black and white is so finite and formed in boxes that I think set a lot in motion for people to try to keep their families feeling the same, feeling fit in, and fitting in became so dire, in terms of being able to survive the realities and not be different. And that goes across so many lines. So sometimes I use the word just to debunk the charge of it. It's like, on one level, I've never seen any two humans that feel the same to me. Like I've met so many people and worked with so many people so intimately, and the feeling I get from each person is just so unique. It's like, oh, that's so special and sacred and incredible. And yeah, we're all in bodies doing the quirky dance of trying to figure out how to survive, and where our survival pushes us into certain boxes or structures or away from them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just don't really
just all of that makes sense to me. And my story with those words is maybe just a little bit different because for me, I've been fixated on how different I am. And wanting to be different and being told that I'm different, either in a negative way or in a superior way. Right. And so I really have delved more deeply into just how normal, regular, banal, when you just get to the guts of it, we're not that different. Right. from each other, and not to erase those, social and cultural differences, and the ways that,
Right.
The different boxes and perceptions that people have of us, and how we're treated differently in this world.
Absolutely.
Not to erase all of that, but just that part of myself
Yep.
that othered myself in a hierarchical way as also a white-bodied person. And also the part of myself that, growing up in a home with an alcoholic and bipolar parent, I thought nothing that was happening to me was normal or right. And I felt very distant, that just everything about myself was wrong. And
You're making so much sense to me. I'm so glad we unpacked that whole thing, and that just bringing this part of you forward to the session feels so important to hear and feel and receive in the work you've done to show up for yourself. It's really powerful. Yeah, really powerful. So just clearing anything not required so that you can take everything. You're so conscious and brilliant, and I can feel the healer in you, and your wisdom is like at your fingertips, and you've worked so much in your life. I mean, it just feels like, I feel like you've worked so much in your life to be you already. And it's so incredibly potent to witness you. I feel deeply honored to be in process with you and holding this, because I can see where, yes, we're aiming at this one way in which you want more change, but I can also see that you've had a million other ways in which you've already changed, and been able to like get past resistances in yourself, and you found ways to really honor and value and show up for yourself on this earth. And I just love it all. I really appreciate and admire you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I haven't done any of it by myself, so
Yeah, we need each other, don't we? We need each other. We
really
need each other. I hope I know you forever. I just appreciate you. I feel like so many of us just need to be in the conversations and need to be places where we get to explore and change our minds about something we explored yesterday, and do it different, and do it the same, and shake it all up and find something new. And I think, tackling our feral primal brains, it's complicated. And I think it's not a solo job. Those coping skills are built for good reason. You survived really hard shit. You just named some really hard shit you've lived through, and were raised in. And of course you'd have a deeper, survival groove that might not always let you get where you think you want to go. And that it would take a little longer, a little more encouragement, a little more support to melt the coping skills that don't serve, and really today we're just like holding the space for what might not serve you anymore, so that you can see what does, and play in that. And I just really appreciate your process.
Thank you.
Yeah. And let's activate the divinity in you. And by that, I just mean any way in which we can see that we belong to something so much bigger than ourselves, in earth and spirit and form, and activating that alive and bringing it through the center of you. Acknowledging, validating, and appreciating all that you've already done to be you and to meet yourself and to heal. It invokes so much trust and faith in every step you take. And in this moment, I just want to love the parts of you that have been stubborn or resistant, or maybe had to hold on to things that maybe even despite yourself, it's had to do, because those survival mechanisms worked. You're an incredible human being, and you did that. Nobody did that to you. You developed that. So honoring those and inviting for you to know any places where those can just be one of many choices that you have in your survival and in your reaching to being even more alive in who you are, and activate change and generate healing immediately. So many shivers. We're beginning to come to the end of this, and I'm just curious about how you're doing or what you might need. Or
well, you said shivers, so I wanted to just recognize that I've had shivers for most of this also, mostly kind of behind my ears going up to like the crown of my head.
Mm.
I've felt for a lot of the time we've been together, especially in your kind of in your blessings.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to just do that last activation one more time. Just offer that to you in the continued journey of being you. As I do that, to just melt anything that you might think you've done wrong. Of course, we can always look and take responsibility for things we wish we did differently or mistakes we've made. But I think a deeper wrongness I'm aiming at, which is like you get to step in and feel that who you are is for all really good reasons. and they're powerful choices you've made. And we'll activate the divinity in you again, bringing that into every single cell of who you are, that infinite being of you, the soul, spirit, body, earth you. And we'll activate that divinity, bring it through the center of the whole being and through every part of you and through all time, spaces, dimensions, and universes, merging in the truth that we are similar and same, and that we are always maybe different, complex little physical bodies, but also always merged, always participating, always receiving from the world and always giving to the world. And that your impact as a body is always happening just by being you, just as a deer, just as a butterfly, just as the waterfalls happen. They exist and they affect us whether we see them or not. And you exist and affect the nature of humankind just by being alive. And every step of healing and consciousness and every step of choice and love for a self or other ripples eternally and activate change and generate healing immediately. Thank you so, so much for being present with me today.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
To be witness. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So appreciate you.
What a beautiful session. Oh, I was just so appreciating Lisa's presence and exploration and deep, deep care about humanity and showing up for the world and what that looks like and all of it, but also just the intimate, vulnerable, deep facets of it all. My goodness. What an honor, what a privilege it is to listen in on these sessions, these conversations, these explorations. I'm just so inspired by people's courage and bravery to look within and to see and to feel and to really get curious about what's going on under there, what's going on in the unconscious, subconscious world, what's going on in the body, and what the soul is trying to communicate through and in, what the being is communicating, and how it all works together. I was really moved in this particular session by Lisa's deep commitment to like, wow, am I living up to my full potential? Like, what am I here to do? What contribution am I here to have? Or am I just, going to be this small life and if I die tomorrow, it's enough? And that either or, back and forth, grandiose or super small. And Gabrielli speaks about that in the session, this either or thinking. And in this work, we really dive deeply into talking about either or thinking and the primal brain. And as episodes roll out, we'll talk more explicitly about the primal brain itself and the survival brain. But that either or thinking is such a telltale sign that there's trauma present or has been trauma in someone's life. And it can really instigate this deep oscillation back and forth between either this thing or that. Either I'm a total piece of shit or I'm the most magnificent creature on the planet, but there's nothing in between. You hear it a lot with couples when they're fighting. It's like, you always do this or you never do that and blah, blah, blah. It can really, when we're in a triggered state, like our primal brains are activated, we can go into either or thinking. But also when there's enough pervasive trauma or a big enough trauma that's happened in someone's life, it can then lead to an undercurrent of either or thinking, like these bigger, grander either or thinkings that can happen underneath and that can really lead or can really impact how we're showing up in the world. And with Lisa, it was this piece around, am I living up to, can I be in my full potential? And if I'm in my full potential, what does that mean? And having that kind of grandiose feeling of like, oh, if I were living in my fullest potential, I'd be having a huge impact in the world, or my, neurodivergence, I could be able to, show up in the world that other people do, or I could be more productive, like all these ways in which it was showing up in these very small scale things and also bigger things. And where it's like, wait a minute, where did Lisa decide that, being in their fullest potential is something to be perfected or something to be, something that it's like, wow, as Gabrielli was saying in that part where they were talking about this of like, I'm either the most magnificent, fully 100% potentiated person, or I'm not at all, and I'm unproductive, and I'm this or I'm that. And where it was like, she was saying like, well, of course you're overwhelmed, or it's challenging for you to step all the way into your full potential if the brain is going into that either or thinking of like, oh, and then it has to be this huge, big, most 100% potentiated version of myself ever. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How is that even attainable or possible in the next 3 hours, right? And how it can take a lifetime to show up for that, to really feel and know and be and live into our fullest potential, and how the brain can make it feel like, if I can't do that, then I can't do anything, right? I just know it so well. I know it so well, where it's like, it's got to be this, this particular way, or it's got to look this way, or it's not okay, right? I do it in my relationship. I do it with my family. I do it with myself, of like really getting grandiose or going the opposite and getting really small and really hard on myself. That's where my self-hatred kicks in, where I'm like, if I can't do it exactly like this person that I'm seeing that somehow perfected it over here, then I'm horrible, So I wanted to just have a conversation here about that and share a little bit about our perspective on it, because I've found it to be really helpful, because I start to see and be able to feel in myself where, oops, just went into either or thinking, oops, just went into big, polarity in myself. Oops, just said always or just said never. And maybe I need to reset for a moment. And maybe I got stuck into that either or patterning, or that polarity, that polarized way of thinking about things. And can I begin to, whether that's ask a question or we use activations, which we'll speak more about, but that can start to help to dismantle the brain that wants to get really stuck in that either or the polarized place. And so a question actually helps to engage that prefrontal cortex in the place of us that can be curious and compassionate and start to see the rainbow sherbet in between, as Gabrielli talks about, and the hundreds of options that might be in there that we're not, aware of yet, or that isn't even in our consciousness as a possibility yet, because we're so stuck in a rigid either or place. So inviting you to really just feel, are there places in your life where you notice that? Are there places in your life where you do go really, really small or get really, really down on yourself, super big and grandiose, and then it's like so overwhelming you can't even begin to take the next step, so you go binge watch the next Netflix series? I don't know anything about that. So, really just feeling those places, noticing, seeing where that might be in there, and getting curious, like, is there a way that I might be stuck in an either or patterning here? And how do I maybe move into a question like, wow, what if this isn't what I think it is? Like, what else could it be? Okay, if I've only decided that this one thing is possible, is that actually true? And if it's not true, like, what would I know? Or what else might be in here for me to discover, for me to feel into, for me to be aware of? And really just playing with that. So I'm just taking a pause because I find pauses to be very helpful in just that reset moment of like, wow, okay, let me be in the curiosity, the reflection. Let me see what might be true for me in all of this. And thanking Lisa so much for showing up, for the courage and bravery, and really what teachings it then can bring out, so that you can really show up and feel the healing that Lisa stirred in you. Saying a huge thank you to Ali Halpert, who's the amazing musician who wrote the songs that you hear in this podcast. We have had the privilege to be able to sing some of Ali's songs in our retreats and workshops, and they've been really powerful additions to our work with people. You can hear more of Ali's music and check out more about Ali on Ali's website, alihalpert.com. That's ALYHALPERT.com.